Welcome into the PFF NFL podcast. Steve Palazzolo back here with Sam Monson. Hello to our YouTube viewers and, of course, to the millions and millions listening to us in podcast land. Sam, how you doing, man?
Doing good. How about you, Steve?
I'm wonderful.
Podcast land?
Yeah, it's a large land where people listen to podcasts. Sometimes they listen to them on Apple. Sometimes it's on...
on Apple?
Yeah, Apple.
Uh-huh.
Through Apple. On Google Play.
Yeah, you seem to have a great handle on this whole world.
Yes, that's how it goes. I sound old.
Yeah,
is what it is.
Do.
I sound really old. As we always do in our Week 9 preview. Of course, we're going to hit on every game. We'll hit on the big stories. I don't know if you've heard yet, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady week.
Yeah.
If anyone's talked about that at all, they're playing each other this week. The Rams and Saints are playing each other. We'll spend a lot of time on the huge games. We'll hit on every game. But as always, we're going to kick off our Week 9 preview with prediction time. Because it's Thursday afternoon. The Thursday night game has not been played yet in our world, but in your world, in podcast land, it almost certainly has. So we're going to tell you what you saw. Don't forget, last week, I almost predicted Brock Osweiler's grade to a T.
You really did.
Very important.
It's kind of annoying.
Yes. So we've had some pretty good success with this overall over the last few weeks, and it's now your turn to tell us what happened when the Oakland Raiders traveled across the bay to the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah, the story coming into that game, the game that had been played on Thursday night, was that C.J. Beathard, the 49ers backup / starting quarterback, now that Jimmy G is down, he was hurt. He was banged up. He had, a hand injury, a wrist injury, whatever it was, and he might not play. We didn't know if it was going to be him or Nick Mullins as their starting quarterback. And what's rather funny is that the Vegas line wasn't moving one iota regardless. They didn't care. That doesn't speak wonders for C.J. Beathard. But he went out there. He gritted his way through the pain, and he was magnificent for 2 drives before he hurt himself.
Really?
And then Nick Mullins had to come in, and the Raiders thought that was their ticket to a victory. But Mullins carved them up.
Really?
Mullins went out there and he threw for 250 yards in relief of C.J. Beathard and won them the game.
Wow.
It was amazing to watch.
Now I'm going to watch it because I wasn't too inspired to watch this game.
It's already happened, Steve. You missed it. You're going to have to catch up.
I DVR'd it from the past.
Okay. Yeah.
So watch the game, guys, if you haven't. I mean, you already saw it. You already saw the game.
They've already watched the game, Steve. They saw it happen. You missed it.
This whole future tense thing really confuses me. Good prediction again, Sam. Special shout out to the boss again, Chris. Thanks for tuning in. He's always listening. I don't know if he listens to the preview podcast, though. He listens to the review throughout the whole
He's probably
week.
Stopped by now.
He might be out.
Yeah.
He might be out of here by now. He said we had him laughing last week. I don't know why, but I think he thinks you're hilarious.
I mean, I am funny. You, not so much. Me.
You're not that funny.
Look, I'm freaking hilarious.
Chris thinks you're hilarious, but hey, whatever you got to do. All right, let's get into the big matchups. It's the Green Bay Packers at the New England Patriots. Of course, the matchup of the week. The boss will be there. It's Sunday Night Football. They've only played each other, Rodgers versus Brady, one time in their career because Rodgers was hurt back in 2010, and it was actually a really good game. Rodgers was incredible in the game. Brady was good, and it was in Green Bay, 2014. I think it was the last Patriots loss of that season before they went on to win the Super Bowl. So it's a fantastic matchup. Going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Did you see even Brady thinks that Rodgers is better than Brady?
Oh, see, now, no. So people use Brady's humility against him in an argument for who's the best quarterback of all time. That's what he does. He talks up everybody else. Oh, Peyton Manning. I wish I could do the things that Peyton Manning could do. He's been saying this for years. Don't use his humility to say, oh, he thinks Rodgers is better than him.
Maybe he's right.
Yeah, I mean, Rodgers is more talented from just like, velocity and athleticism and stuff. Doesn't make him a better quarterback.
Okay. I'm just saying,
Of course Brady's a better quarterback.
Brady said that Rodgers was a better quarterback.
Yeah, and did you hear all the stuff Rodgers was saying? Oh, I watched this film back in the day, and I learned so many things from him. And of course he's the GOAT. He's got 5 championships. Of course he's the best. Rodgers said all that stuff too.
But did he say he was better than Rodgers?
Are you Okay, so Rodgers said Brady, of course, no questions asked, is the greatest of all time. So now you're going to use Rodgers' humility against him and say, well, Rodgers admitted Brady's better than him.
But that's like a cumulative thing, right? That's like when all's said and done, his career goes down as the best ever. But right now, I kick his ass.
No, I don't. Well, I mean, Brady's 41.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're talking physical tools and all that stuff, of course, it's Rodgers. But that's like, I mean, Cam's got really good physical tools. Let's make him good. Let's just rank Cam as a top 3 quarterback because he throws fast and he can run the ball a little bit, just to rile up more Panthers fans.
No, I'm not getting into that again.
Yeah, I mean, there are people that like to do that and just say, well, this is the most talented quarterback, therefore he's always going to be a top quarterback no matter how he performs.
Uh-huh.
There are people who do such things.
Yeah.
So we've got a pretty good little Rodgers versus Brady Sky preview that'll be over there for our UK guys.
There you go.
UK people. They'll be watching Sky on Sunday. Please be sure to check that out. What else are we looking for in this game besides the epic quarterback matchup? By the way, our top 2 graded quarterbacks dating back to 2010. Pretty clear, Brady and Rodgers.
Yeah. Who are the Packers playing at safety now? They just shipped off Clinton Dix to the Washington Redskins.
Whitehead, James Jones.
I mean, I'm honestly wondering if they're going to move.
Jones.
Yeah, no, not James Jones. I'm honestly wondering if they're going to move one of their corners to safety. Like Tramon Williams has been playing corner back. Used to play corner for them at a
he's moved around
tremendously high standard.
Yeah.
He's been back this year. He's been playing corner for them. Really exposed last week for speed. Like he just got burned by receivers a few times. I'm wondering if he's a natural candidate to move to safety.
By the way, obviously I meant Josh Jones, their former 2nd round pick from 2017.
Yeah, that's why I was saying not James Jones.
Yeah.
And then Josh Jackson is the other guy that I think could potentially move to safety. I think he's because he doesn't run the 4.3 40. I think he's the kind of guy that a team would move to safety. I have no idea if they're going to, but that's something to watch. It's just who the hell the Packers going to be lining up at safety now.
Have heard the rumblings about Tramon being that guy. And then speaking of that secondary, Jair Alexander, 5 pass breakups last week, was it?
Yeah.
All 5 of his season high. I mean, he's got 5 on the season, all 5 of which came last week. Jair is a good player. Belichick was raving about Jair Alexander. Belichick has his favorites. I mean, you could tell, obviously, all the prep and stuff that he does in the draft. I mean, and when he goes on and on about a player, it's usually like, hey, we would be drafting this guy if we had a chance to. So he was raving about Jair Alexander, who we really liked coming out of college.
Yeah, he was absolutely fantastic in that game. I mean, he gave up. It was a weird game because he targeted 9 times, gave up 4 catches for 80 yards, but had 5 pass breakups. So all of the incompletions were because he forced the incompletion. On one of those completed passes, he was absolutely all over Brandon Cooks at the time. The pass was low and down to the left. And basically, if it was anywhere other than where it was, Jair Alexander's probably breaking that one up as well. So it was this incredible game of being all over receivers, but still giving up a little bit in terms of catches.
So there's a lot of fun stuff to watch. Of course, we always talk about the quarterbacks and where it starts. I'm interested in how the defenses attack these quarterbacks. When you look at Belichick, the 2014 game, you could tell they did as best they could to try to keep Rodgers in the pocket, scared to death of him out of the pocket, rightfully so. He's the best quarterback in the NFL over the last few years in pretty much every metric outside the pocket. Of course, he's awesome inside the pocket too. You pick your poison, but that's generally been the way that Belichick tries to handle anybody that can beat them outside the pocket. So watching how the Patriots go up against a Packers offensive line that's number 1 in our pass blocking grades, I think that's going to be an interesting matchup. Do the Patriots try to mix it up on the back end? We talked about them treating Patrick Mahomes a little bit like Aaron Rodgers. They had some pretty timely blitzes against Mahomes a few weeks ago. Do they do that again? And then on the other side, Brady has seen the lowest percentage of blitzes in the league by like 5% over the next closest quarterback. But Mike Pettin comes from that Ravens, Rex Ryan type of tree, loves to blitz. Do they try to attack Brady? Do they sit back and play coverage? I mean, again, I just think that's as interesting of a matchup as anything, how the defensive coordinators go up against these QBs.
Yeah, I think it's a really good matchup. The other thing is that the Packers, they're in that NFC North where it's chaotic. The whole division is separated by a win, with those 2 teams having tied, the Packers and the Vikings. But they can't. It's one of those games where they can't. It's not must win, right? They don't, because that division is so close and they're still in the thick of it. It's not a must win game. but neither can they afford to just accept, oh, it's the Patriots, we're going to lose this one, we'll make it up somewhere else. Like, they need to treat this seriously and try and go out there and actually win this game, because that division could slip away from somebody pretty quickly.
In New England, of course, expectations are always high. Always high. They've had, they go to the Super Bowl essentially when they're hosting the AFC Championship, when they have that #1 seed, and they're still a game behind the Kansas City Chiefs. So the Patriots, they can't relax either. They've got a banged-up Gronk, who I'm sure at some point this season they would love to have him sit out 2 or 3 games and rest up for the playoffs. They can't afford that because they need that #1 seed, at least the #2 seed and all that stuff. It's way too early. I mean, it's all up for grabs. So it's a huge game for both teams, much like it was back in 2014.
But there is also another marquee game. Everyone's looking ahead to the Rams versus the Chiefs, which is coming down the pike. But before that, the Rams have to play the Saints.
That's what I'm saying. NFC, it's a playoff game every week.
Right.
This is beautiful.
The Saints, who lost their opening game against Tampa Bay and have been undefeated since. So, whilst everybody is focusing on the Chiefs and the Rams, the Saints really are kind of coming up behind them pretty quickly. So that, I think, is a fascinating game. It's difficult to know what to make of the Saints coming out of that game against the Vikings, because it looked like the Vikings kind of had that game in hand right up until that fumble before halftime, where they were going down the field to score themselves. The Saints could not stop Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs. Then Thielen fumbles the ball away. The Saints recover. They go down and score, and that just starts that game going the other direction. Then you get the pick 6, and now the Vikings are in a hole by 2 scores, and it's just a different game than it was before then. But it showed that the Saints' defense is still vulnerable. They were able to get a ton of pressure on Kirk Cousins over the course of that game, but the Rams have a much better offensive line than the Vikings do.
That'll look a little bit different.
Yeah.
It did also feel like it was Drew Brees' worst game of the season, but it did feel like if the Saints needed him, which they didn't really down the stretch because of the way the game turned with the forced fumble and the pick 6, that Brees, he generally figures it out and does what he needs to down the stretch. And again, I come back to, for both of these teams, they find other ways to win. It's not QB dependent. It's not just defense dependent. These two teams have found ways to win when Jared Goff and Drew Brees have not been at their best. They found ways to win when it's running game dependent. They've had their defense win games for them. That's what makes, I think, this game so special.
So it doesn't look like the Saints defense is capable of stopping that Rams offense. I think it's going to have success there, and then the question flips to the other side of the ball. What happens there? And
especially in the dome, Sam. Especially in the dome. It's going to be another shootout.
And as good as that New Orleans tackle pairing is, Ryan Ramczyk on the right, Teron Armstead on the left, that's the best tackle pairing in the NFL right now. They're not as strong inside, and that's where all the Rams' devastating defensive linemen are. That's where Aaron Donald is going to come from. That's where Sue, that's where Brockers, they come up the middle. It's the great tackle pairing is going to be of limited help when everybody is streaming in between the guards and the center and all that kind of stuff. So that's something to watch there as well. Is as strong as that New Orleans pass blocking group is, it's so buoyed by the guys on the outside. Yeah. I don't know how it's going to be able to contain Donald up the inside.
That's a good point. The strength of the Saints offensive line maybe not matching up for this matchup. Of course, the Rams added Dante Fowler this week. That's a big addition for them potentially. We've talked about them having maybe the worst, group of edge defenders in the entire NFL. And big question coming into the year, is it going to matter? Well, when Aaron Donald, the best player in the NFL, is having a career year.
Yes.
By the way. So, no, it doesn't matter if you have the best player in the NFL essentially doing the work of 3 men up front from a pressure standpoint. That's not an exaggeration.
No.
Like, he really is. It's the 2 best tackle pairings in the NFL in this game. So if you're into offensive line play, especially a tackle, Armstead and Ramczyk on one side, you have Whitworth and Rob Havenstein on the other side. So they're all top 5 tackles.
Both of these teams have a pair of top 5 tackles by our grading right now.
4 out of the top 5 graded offensive tackles are in this game. The only other guy not there is David Bakhtiari.
Donald right now has 54 total pressures in half a season.
Yeah.
Last year he had 91 over the whole season.
So it's about his pace.
Well, yeah, Grant. So he had 91.
He's a little ahead of his pace.
91 over the full season, but he only played 14 games.
Right.
So he's about the same pace, but it's an absurd league-leading pace every single year.
And his grade's higher because the pressure's coming quicker.
Yeah.
He's got forced fumbles in there. He's playing well against the run. I mean, we just could have a whole show on how good Aaron Donald truly is.
I mean, so I think I'm right in saying still that we've only ever seen one guy top 100 pressures over a season. Donald would be the second in the current pace.
Very, very good chance to do that. Just to talk about the QBs real quick, Drew Brees, he's on pace to set the NFL record again for regular completion percentage. He's on pace to set our adjusted completion percentage record, 84.8. He's number 1 in PFF grades right now at 92.1. And then Jared Goff, the system quarterback, number 5 QB right now in our grades at 90.6 overall. I'll say this about Goff. I mean, I expect I don't think he's going to end up as a top 5 quarterback, but I think credit where credit's due. He's been just fantastic this year, in addition to the great job that Sean McVay does. Leads the NFL in play-action dropbacks with 108, yards with 1,130, 4th in rating at 119.5. That play-action game is huge, and not necessarily because they have Todd Gurley, just because play-action is awesome, and McVay's scheme, running play-action, is awesome.
He's been excellent at handing the ball off to MVP Todd Gurley.
Oh, man. Let's not get into it. Gurley has been good.
Yeah.
He's been good. Mm-hmm. He's been a very good running back, not the MVP of the league.
No.
Robert Woods having a career year. Brandon Cooks is catching 50% of his contested targets. That's number 2 in the NFL. There's a lot of goodies in this one. So some really fun matchups this week. Packers, Patriots, and then Rams and Saints. Anything on this game? Anything else, Sam?
No, I think we've covered this game pretty well. I think it's going to be that. I think that is the best game of the week.
They're over Packers, Patriots.
Yes.
All right. Again, the NFC. Love it. How loaded they are. All right, let's get to our Dalton coaster of the week and fly through some other games. I'm calling the Dalton coaster of the week Matthew Stafford, who was coming off of one of his highest graded games in his career. It may have been the highest grade. I want to put a little asterisk next to it, though. It was against Miami, Week 7. Only threw the ball 22 times. But, throw for throw, his best game.
I thought you wanted to put an asterisk next to it because it was against Miami.
That too. It was also against Miami. But it was in the humidity of Miami, so credit.
The heat, yeah.
Credit Stafford. So he comes back with a 93. He's a 93.6 against Miami, and then has a 50.6 last week against Seattle. That's a massive drop-off. That's Dalton coaster-ish. And again, I've always said Stafford has, 3 games where he looks like the best quarterback in the league and all that stuff. He's been different this year. He's had a few games where he's been really good, but he's been actually very, very consistent. Even that Week 1 game where he had the 4 interceptions, we graded him okay because there was some bad luck in there as well. So
there's no Golden Tate anymore. Golden Tate has been kicking the Vikings' ass for the last few years. He seems to be the guy. Every time those close games come, it goes to Golden Tate, and he makes 3 guys miss in the secondary, and they score a touchdown, and the Vikings get annoyed.
Xavier Rhodes was at a loss for words.
Right. Now he's not there anymore. He's been shipped off to Philadelphia. They're going to have to get it done without him. That Vikings defense is still really inconsistent. It's just not been as good as it was a year ago. They flashed the ability to get it done, but it just hasn't been top to bottom as good. So that in and of itself is a really interesting matchup in that NFC North, which, again, is separated by a win in total.
Golden Tate is out. Of course, the Lions also brought in Big Snacks Harrison. He made his debut with the Lions last week, was their highest-graded defensive player in their loss to the Seahawks.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about it. The Vikings' offensive line is, oh, no, wait, it's terrible.
Yeah. So Snacks might not get blocked.
How did you miss the most obvious Dalton coaster this week, which is Matt Ryan now has to go outdoors? It's not Pennsylvania, but he's going to Washington to play the Redskins, coming off a bye week and then 2 straight good games because they were in Georgia. Now he's leaving Georgia. He's leaving the comfort of home.
Back outdoors.
And he's going outside.
This is his 3rd outdoor game of the year.
Yes.
Is that right?
So obviously he's going to have a terrible game.
I still picked Atlanta. Shoot, I meant to pick Washington for the outdoor thing alone.
Yeah.
Right? Matt Ryan's going to be throwing wobbly ducks. I mean, if there's any wind, he's done.
Right.
Any kind of wind.
This is what I'm saying.
So you took what? We didn't do our picks for the first few games.
Oh, okay.
By the way. We both took New England over Green Bay.
Yes.
We both took New Orleans over the undefeated Rams.
We did.
Really thinking that home field advantage, cross-country trip is
almost all of us did, in fact. Only Nathan, who admittedly is leading the picks, went with the Rams.
Must reconsider. We're all taking Minnesota over the Detroit Lions. And in this one, you're taking the Washington Redskins. I'm taking the Atlanta Falcons.
Mm-hmm.
Which I might reconsider. Because
it's too late. The graphics are already out.
Matt Ryan playing outdoors. Is Washington the worst 5-2 team I've ever seen? I don't know.
No, Washington isn't bad. I think they're just one of these teams that you don't want to admit is good because it's not pretty. It's led by Alex Smith on offense.
You're using my example, yeah.
It's led by Alex Smith on offense. There's enough bad that you still consistently question them, but they're a decent team.
I do like what their defense can do. Again, I keep coming back to that Saints game where I feel like that was just the worst game they've played, and it felt like it lasted, counted for 5 losses.
They added Clinton-Dix to the secondary. They got better. I think this is a good side.
Clinton-Dix will catch one of those wobbly ducks in the wind from Matt Ryan this week.
Look, we're not predicting every game, Steve, just Thursday.
Oh, okay. Well, every now and again I throw an extra one in there.
Okay.
Let's go to the Jets-Dolphins game. What are we looking for in this one, Sam? Anything in particular?
No.
We did a little preview for the NFL. I thought there were some interesting nuggets there about the Jets receivers, how Robbie Anderson is pretty much only their deep threat, and Quincy Enunwa leads the league in most first downs on passes that were thrown behind the line of scrimmage because he's been number 2 in the league in yards after the catch.
Yeah, he's been the bubble screen catching guy.
Yeah. How's that for a nugget? Osweiler's starting.
Yeah. I'm curious to see if Devontae Parker is actually, back. I don't want to say back. Was he ever there in the first place? If he's finally broken out, become the player we thought he could be when he was coming out of college.
Right.
He looked really good when he was back from injury, and that last game, was that just a freak? Obviously, there was one freaky catch in there.
Right.
But was that a fluke, or is he actually a viable receiver now that he's got somebody who's going to throw him the ball?
He'll see a bit of Morris Claiborne in this matchup. It's not a bad matchup, the way Claiborne's been playing this year.
That Jets secondary is kind of fun. It's got a bunch of guys that I liked coming out, whether it's Darryl Roberts, whether it's Parry Nickerson, even Morris Claiborne. I didn't see as much about him at the time, but I liked him as a prospect.
Yeah.
So it's kind of fun secondary, actually, they've got there.
Where are we going here? Miami. I took Miami, but this was before I knew that Osweiler was definitely starting.
It's in the heat, though.
Oh, it's in Miami. Okay,
yeah.
We're good.
Yeah.
We're good. Darnold can't play in that kind of heat.
No, God,
it's too humid.
Not with that
He's used to Cali, no humidity.
Yeah, not with that complexion.
Yeah, that's true. So much analytics going on here. Mm-hmm. Pittsburgh Steelers at the Baltimore Ravens. We had some interesting nuggets on this. Ben Roethlisberger, number 2 in the NFL in percentage of his yards that have come after the catch. He's had 56.1% of his yards after the catch, and that's a big reason why he's only 26th in PFF grade at 65.7, but 17th in passer rating at 94.5. I still trust Big Ben. I still think he's going to be fine down the stretch, but just a very interesting difference right now in his grade versus his numbers. But then the Ravens, number 1 in the league at preventing yards after the catch, only 2.81. So that's a good matchup there.
This is another one of these. They always match up pretty interestingly against each other as division foes. The other way this game is kind of interesting is the Steelers have been really good running the ball. Despite Le'Veon Bell, not being there, James Conner's looked fantastic. The offensive line has been very good, and that's part of why James Conner has looked so good. And they've been able to get it done despite teams stacking against the run, essentially. They've been, faced 8-man boxes a lot. James Conner has played really well and gained a lot of yards against those boxes. But you go up against the Ravens, whose speciality really is stopping the run. They've got those monster bodies up front, guys like Michael Pierce. They're able to stop the run pretty easily against most teams, so it's really strength on strength. You got this powerful Steelers ground game led by James Conner, and every time he makes a big play, a single solitary tear rolls down the cheek of Le'Veon Bell from his jet ski in Miami.
Poor Le'Veon.
And then you going up against that Baltimore Ravens defensive front that is extremely stout against the run.
We've got Joe Flacco coming off his second worst game of the season. But when he played Pittsburgh last time, 83.2 grade. On the road, where he's generally struggled over the last few years. Pretty good job by Flacco in their last matchup. Flacco starting to attempt more deep passes this year. 8th highest percentage of his throws have been deep down the field, but only 33rd in passer rating still.
Yeah.
On deep passes down the field, 52.1.
Yeah, that's not ideal.
With the big arm. I'm taking Pittsburgh in this one. I'm not a believer in the Ravens overall.
Our last week was the most snaps that Lamar Jackson has played in a game since week 1. And it was, 3 times the amount of snaps he played then versus the Saints on actually the same number of total team snaps. So he only played 5 times against the Saints. He was on the field for 14 snaps against the Panthers, and they actually let him pass the ball a little bit with very mixed results. Like, he threw a touchdown that was really nice.
Right.
On the other hand, he got a manufactured easy rollout pass and somehow managed to dump the ball at the feet of his receiver. And by that, I mean like a yard
the scouting
shy.
report to a T.
Right, like at a yard shy of his feet, not sort of low at his feet that he could catch and just turn, eliminated the yak. No. I'm talking like it didn't get to him. He was wide open over a linebacker and he put the ball like a yard and a half in front of him.
This is where I'm not comparing him directly to Cam Newton, but we said coming out.
Reclaim the comparison,
If you,
Steve.
right, I'm going to reclaim it. The similarities to Cam Newton. If you pull out Cam Newton's best throws, you're like, wow, unbelievable. If you pull out all the throws, including a bunch of easy ones, there'll be a bunch of misses in there. Lamar, if you just wanted to say this dude makes NFL throws, you could find that on film. But then if you just quantified how many easy throws he missed, it's going to be high. Or higher than the average. That's Lamar to a T.
This is why the accuracy thing that we talked about, it's never on a play level, right? Every single NFL quarterback is capable of being accurate with the football. Otherwise, they would not be NFL quarterbacks.
I mean, we could find Christian Hackenberg making
right.
probably three NFL throws during his college career.
I was going to say college career, not NFL career.
No, not in the NFL. Maybe 3 to 10.
Right. You could every quarterback that hits the NFL is capable of making quality, accurate passes. The question is, how many do they make? How many do they miss? And how frequent? How often do those come about? And the thing with Cam Newton is, yes, he's capable of making incredible, accurate throws. He just doesn't do it as often as everybody else, and he misses more. So Lamar Jackson, if you looked at the touchdown pass, you think, yeah, what an accurate throw. That's great. But then, he rolls out and misses a pass that I would make.
Remind me.
That's a problem.
I have a great Cam and Jameis Winston number for you when we get to the Bucs and Panthers game.
Always Jameis.
Well, it just happened.
He's not even starting anymore, Steve.
I wasn't looking for it.
He's not even starting anymore. Fitzmagic's job.
Wait until you hear the similarities there. I'm taking Pittsburgh. You're taking Baltimore, by the way.
Yeah.
Just so you know. You aware?
I am. Yes.
Okay.
I saw that when we put in the picks.
All right, great.
Okay.
All right, let's get to our biggest mismatch of the week. And that's going to be our somebody has to be the number one defense in the NFL. By our grades, it's the Bears.
Okay.
I think it's skewed a little bit by who they've had to play. Other than the Patriots, they've had a little bit of help there.
Well, like I said, like you said, the best defense in the NFL this year should start at number 15.
Yes, the best defense is 15. The 10th best defense is 15, and that's just where they do.
Right.
That's
so the Bears are the 15th best defense in the league, which happens to be number 1 this year.
Tied with 10 other teams.
Yeah.
So Bears defense, number 1 or 15, no matter which way you want to slice it, versus the Bills offense, which is a clear number 32. They might even be behind Bama. Bama's number 32, Bills number 33.
Did they sign Terrell Pryor yet?
I think so. I jokingly said that's the next quarterback for them.
Right, you jokingly said it.
Before they signed him.
I genuinely think that signing Terrell Pryor, they signed him. Look, it's done, apparently.
Matt Barkley's there, too.
I honestly think that Terrell Pryor getting into the building Wednesday would be a better option to start at quarterback this weekend than Nathan Peterman right now.
I agree.
And Matt Barkley.
Barkley's better than Peterman, and he's at least on the same level as Derrick Anderson.
So, on the Bills roster right now, right? Derrick Anderson, who's got a concussion, we can't, he's not an option.
Right.
We've got Josh Allen, obviously wrecked elbow, can't play. Now, you've got Nathan Peterman, can't go 3 minutes without throwing an interception or a pick six. You've got Terrell Pryor, a wide receiver. You've got Logan Thomas, a tight end.
Oh, my goodness.
And Matt Barkley, a terrible, terrible quarterback, just signed off his couch.
He's not terrible.
He's terrible.
He's a pretty good backup.
He is awful. So,
living in extremes.
Of those 4 options, how far down the list is Peterman?
It's like 4th or 5th. I think he's better than Logan Thomas.
He's 5th of a 4-man option?
Yeah. He's better than Logan Thomas.
Well, that makes him 3rd, right? I mean, discount the 2 injured guys.
Oh, so how many do we have?
3. We've got 4 options.
Okay.
Pryor, Thomas, Peterman, and Matt Barkley.
He's 3rd.
3rd?
I'd go Barkley, Pryor with the gimmicky offense.
Yes.
Peterman, then the tight end Logan Thomas.
Then Logan Thomas.
Logan Thomas was a pretty bad quarterback.
Would he make those pick sixes, though? That's what you got to ask yourself.
No, Thomas had that Tebow special ability to be inaccurate enough that nobody caught it.
Right?
Yeah. Peterman's just inaccurate enough to throw pick sixes.
That might be more valuable.
Yes.
So, yeah, I mean, you joked about it. I genuinely think that Pryor running a complete gimmick offense, the way they opened the game against the Patriots, right? This all Wildcat thing.
Bills had me so excited for about 4 plays.
This is what I'm saying. If you brought Pryor in right now and said, Terrell, you got 5 plays. This is all there is. This week, there are 5 plays in the offense. That's all we're running. You got to run this. At quarterback, Wildcat, just be an athlete. Go back to your Ohio State days. That's what we're rocking here. That's better than Peterman going out there and throwing 3 pick sixes.
That's true.
That's not a great situation to be in.
It's not. It is funny because with the narrative, as I put out my mock draft this week and everything, which you guys should check out, there's not a whole lot of teams that need quarterbacks. We are at a time in the NFL where I don't think there's a ton of quarterback need. There's guys that should move teams like Jameis Winston and maybe a few other guys. Maybe a Derek Carr is free. There's not a whole lot of QB needy teams. And then there's the Bills, who even if whatever you want to think about Josh Allen, they think they have their guy. But beyond that, it is amazing just how bad that depth chart looks right now.
I mean, it's ridiculous right now. Like
Derek Anderson off a golf course was better than their backup.
Way better.
So how do you go into the year with that?
And he showed that he's still Derek Anderson. I mean, he threw the ugly pick six at the end of that game, which was vintage Derek Anderson. Like, he's a bad quarterback himself, and yet he's way better than Peterman.
Yeah. So we all have the Bears in this one. I do want to see Trubisky. I think we had something up on the site this week about how he needs to play better. I mean, look, the same narrative we've been saying about Ben Roethlisberger. The stats and the grades just don't match for Trubisky. His stats are inflated by the scheme and all this stuff. If he starts making more throws, though, that Bears team looks scary. Trubisky's doing his most damage on the ground, and he's going up against the Bills' pass defense that made life tough for the Patriots on Monday night at home. And, they're tough to go up against this, every week. It's just their offense can't capitalize at all. So I want to see that. And you got to see Trubisky improve if they're going to make that move in the NFC North.
Yeah, the Bills' defense was really good against the Patriots, and yet that was the most depressing game of the year because at no point was the result ever in question.
Yeah, I mean, it was 9-6, and you're just like, all right, they're not going to.
Yeah.
They can't come back.
There's no way the Bills win this game.
Right.
Ever.
Almost did with that phantom touchdown, but he never caught it.
No.
All right, Kansas City Chiefs at the Cleveland Browns. It's Baker Mahomes 2 after they threw for 9,000 yards a couple years ago in college.
I was going to say, people might not know the story of that Baker Mahomes game.
Do you have the stats, Andy?
I don't.
Let's start pulling them up. 2016, Oklahoma versus Texas Tech. Baker Mayfield's numbers were just insanity, but he did it on only 36 attempts. And then Mahomes' numbers, also insanity. He did it on about 80 attempts. So it was the greatest passing game in the history of college football. You could also say it was just the worst defensive game in the history of college football. But there were also like tight window NFL throws. The grades were really good too for both guys. It was crazy. Bruce Feldman actually wrote a whole article about it. Had the whole oral history of it back on The Athletic this week. So there are some people talking about it. Baker Mayfield in general coming off of a couple rough games. Mahomes keeps rolling. The Browns and Greg Williams team now with, going up against Mahomes with a defense that has forced a ton of turnovers and has actually played pretty well overall this year in Cleveland. So I think that's a pretty good matchup. Mahomes going up against that Browns defense. Have I bought you enough time yet?
You really haven't. I'm not capable of navigating this quickly enough. What week was it? I need to find out what week it is.
Just click on Texas Tech.
Click on Texas Tech.
And then you can get to their schedule or click on Oklahoma. Control F, Texas Tech.
This is a nightmare.
This is the worst podcast of all time.
That's Oklahoma State. I need, where's
Control
Oklahoma?
F Oklahoma until, they're probably going to buy it whatever week you're looking at.
There they are. Right.
So
There's
click
Oklahoma.
on them as a team.
Okay.
And then you could see the whole schedule and you click on the game. Baker was something like 27 for 36 for 500 yards or something, was it?
Yeah, except
now I'm making up numbers, but I think they're
That's
close.
It. You keep making up numbers until I have enough time
Mahomes,
to find the real
47
numbers.
for 83 for 727.
That's perfect. Yeah, if you just keep saying numbers, I don't even need to make them up.
But I think they're close.
You just keep saying numbers. Right, here we go.
Oh,
Baker Mayfield.
Oh, you have it.
I got it. Baker Mayfield, PFF grade 95, by the way. That's pretty good.
Yes, that's really
PFF
high.
grade of 95, an NFL pass rating of 156.3, thanks to 545 yards, 7 touchdowns, no interceptions, completing 75% of his passes.
But it was only like 27 for 36 or something, right?
Exactly 27 for 36, in
Beautiful.
fact.
I wasn't making things up.
It really annoys the crap out of me the way you do that.
I saw it this week.
So that was Baker Mayfield's numbers. Patrick Mahomes had an overall PFF grade of just 79.6. So good, but, not Baker.
I remember reviewing that game thinking he got away with a few jump balls.
Right. NFL pass rating of 100.3, so reasonable. But 52 of 88.
There you go.
88 pass attempts for 734 yards, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception. That's pretty ridiculous.
The game was insane.
So they combined for what, 1,300 yards and 12 touchdowns?
Yeah, it was fun.
On 1 pick?
We going to do that again this week? Chiefs-Browns?
I mean, it doesn't seem like they're going to put up those numbers.
I haven't checked the weather on this one, but, it could be a weather game in Cleveland in November. Does that slow down the Chiefs' offense a little bit? This is more of a challenge for Mahomes maybe than any other game this year except maybe New England. And the Denver games are tough.
I mean, those Greg Williams defenses are so high risk, high reward that they can do anything on a given day. They can be carved up to pieces, or they can have those big turnover days where they're pretty suffocating and you can't score on them. You haven't mentioned the single biggest factor in this game.
No Hugh?
No.
Oh, jeez.
Rashad Higgins is back.
Oh, jeez. We were in the middle of a very important meeting today, and I had to show you the clip of him practicing.
He's back.
Very excited.
Rashad Higgins is back.
You also popped the microphone. You're so excited. You're just blowing my eardrums out.
That feels like an equipment problem, not me. But that means Baker Mayfield will be better.
Is Rashad Higgins your favorite player in the NFL? Who's your favorite player?
Maybe right now.
I want a list from you. Your top 5
Well,
players.
he's definitely up there with Benny Cunningham of players that I like for no real reason. Rashad Higgins is back, which means the Baker Mayfield slump is over.
Okay.
He's going to go back to being the Baker we saw when he came into the
Has nothing to do with the Chiefs.
Nothing to do with the Chiefs. It's Rashad Higgins being back, and that chemistry he has with Baker Mayfield is going to make Baker go off and go back to being Baker.
So that's what you'll be watching for.
Yeah.
Okay. We all taking the Chiefs in this one, though? We are.
Well, I was until you showed me Higgins was back. Now
you're going to flip it to Cleveland?
I might have to flip it back to Cleveland.
We'll have to talk to Gordon, see if we could flip our picks. Tampa Bay Bucks at the Carolina Panthers. Here's my stat real quick. I was doing a little Brady Rodgers research, actually, running the database back to 2010. Percentage of positively graded throws in the NFL. Number 1, dating back to 2010, is Jameis Winston. Cam Newton's in the top 5. Mm-hmm. He's like 3rd or 4th. Rounding out the top 5 is Aaron Rodgers, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady. So you've got 3 of the best of all time, and then Cam Newton and Jameis Winston.
Yeah.
Now, the difference is the 3 guys that are best of all time are also in the top 10 or so avoiding negatively graded throws. Jameis and Cam are both tied for the top 5 highest percentage of negatively graded throws. Mm-hmm. Now, that list, I don't have it in front of me, but that list consisted of, off the top of my head, Mark Sanchez, Blaine Gabbert, Brian Hoyer, and there was one other name in there before you got to Jameis and Cam tied. And again, this is what I keep coming back to, is this, volatile play-for-play style between Cam and Jameis throughout their careers, which again makes me think that Jameis has that in him.
Never going to happen.
To have the 1 year like Cam did.
It's just not happening.
I'm hearing, I don't want to touch too much on Cam. I thought Zach Robinson did a great job of breaking down what the scheme's doing for him on our YouTube channel. Please go check that out, what he's doing within the scheme. A lot of people comparing his numbers to his 2015 MVP numbers. I don't think he's playing at that MVP level. No. He was excellent that year. He's not playing at that MVP level.
He was really good last week, though. I mean,
the point I made the other day, if you're just going to look at his statistics are at a similar level as 2015, and if you're just using passer rating, he's 15th in the NFL right now in passer rating. So he's not. It's all relative to the year and all that stuff, right? I mean, so credit the Panthers and their offense and the way they're running it. I don't see Cam as having that MVP season right now, though. And I love what he's doing in the run game.
But you were complaining about me popping the mic earlier. I was listening to a podcast recently where one of the hosts, randomly in the course of acting something out, screamed into the mic,
how'd that sound?
Unannounced, and apparently just had a tsunami of abuse coming in throughout the week that people just, wrecked their ears, crashed their bikes, riding along, listening to this. So I only popped, and it was in the midst of a clearly escalating peak of excitement, whereas this was an unannounced roar into the microphone. So I think we're good.
All right.
But if I did make you crash your bike, direct all complaints to Steve.
Wait. No, it's your fault. Fitzmagic getting the start against Carolina. Who's for real? Yes. Is it Carolina? Are they, do I still have to believe in Carolina? Do I still have to believe in Fitzmagic? We'll learn a lot this week.
Fitzmagic. Apparently. So one of my neighbors, a buddy of his, was working in a Starbucks down by the stadium last week. And 9 a.m. on the Sunday, Fitzpatrick just cruises into Starbucks buying a coffee, before the game.
Oh, really? Yeah, because they were playing.
Yeah, because they were here in town playing Cincinnati. So Fitzpatrick just wanders in, buys himself a Starbucks.
Well, he was the
backup.
Right. Backup last week.
Yeah.
That's great. Former colleague, Ryan Fitzpatrick. Yeah, we worked together.
Right.
Yeah. He shaved for it and everything. He was really clean cut for that Super Bowl episode.
That's kind of disappointing.
It was. I wanted the big beard.
Right.
You know? It was weird. So we're all taking Carolina in this one. Do we have a captain reading? It's according to my notes, it's captain. You're just unprepared.
I really am.
Do you want to do a game first?
No, I'll find it. You buy some time, Steve. You're getting good at it this week.
The Indianapolis Colts are on a bye.
They are.
I'm going to read a stat real quick.
Okay.
While we're on the bye. Mm-hmm. Everybody's talking about the Colts offensive line, and they're not giving up sacks, and it's the best offensive line he's had forever, and this is like the big storyline.
Uh-huh.
And there's an element of truth to that. The offensive line is better than it's been in recent years. But here's the key number. Andrew Luck's average time to throw, that's when from snap to the end of the play, 2.45 this year. That's about 2 seconds lower than what he usually comes in at year over year. That number has nothing to do with the offensive line. That is a scheme-driven thing. That's an Andrew Luck-driven thing. So they're getting rid of the ball quicker. That's as much to do with the protection as the offensive line.
Did I see Quentin Nelson had won AFC Offensive Player of the Month or Rookie of the Month?
That's what I heard.
That can't have happened very often for an offensive lineman. Like they don't get those awards.
They didn't have any good options. Apparently.
They've got to have better options than that, surely.
I mean, I appreciate it.
I'm not actually disagreeing with them. I think for once they might have actually got it right, but it has to be for the wrong reasons because there's no way they make that right. I don't know. You find that out while I read the captain.
Well, if I could find it nice and easily over there.
Sam. Cue the music. We have a missive from the captain now that he's on a bye. Dearest Mother, I have received your care package of cured woodchuck elbows and a fresh batch of squirrel oil, which has helped my sidearm function tremendously. There will be no battle this week. The men get a much-earned rest. We are all in good spirits. I miss you, Andrew.
Oh, we don't do Rookies of the Month.
We don't do... Yeah, we do, surely. Pretty sure we did last week.
We did Players of the Month.
Yeah. Is there not Rookie in there as well?
We don't have Rookies of the Month. We have a mid-season all-rookie team over at Pro Football.
We don't have Rookies in the Player of the Month?
Do we?
I thought we did. I'm pretty sure I wrote... When I did it last month, I'm pretty sure I had Rookies in there. Yeah, maybe you should have clicked on the article that you're looking for.
Offensive Rookie of the Month. We gave it to an offensive lineman.
Okay, who did we give it to?
Mike McGlinchey.
Ah, Mike.
Is he... He's not eligible.
Well, look, I mean...
He is not an eligible rookie.
If there's one thing that gives you an advantage in Rookie of the Month honors, it's having played 17 years in the NFL.
Man, he is just screwing the system.
How many people do you think listen to the podcast now that have no freaking idea where that joke comes from? And they're just like, what are they talking about?
We've added a lot of listeners since we made that joke.
This is what I'm saying.
Mike McGlinchey looks old. Throughout the draft process, Sam was like, this guy's like 40.
Yeah.
That's the joke.
Right.
We pretend he's 40.
Yeah.
He's really a rookie.
And explaining it only makes it funnier. So I think this is helping everybody.
Well, because we had more people who, when they're looking for it, they start sending us pictures on Twitter. When they show him, being introduced with the starters or whatever it is, they're like, wow, you're right. He does look like he's 40. So, when he was drafted, we're saying, hey, veteran leadership for that 49ers offensive line.
It's perfect.
All right. We got the Colts to not lose this week in their bye. Chargers at Seahawks. The Seahawks, to me, have really overachieved.
Every year.
The way that roster was turned over. Russell Wilson's playing at a high level. I was expecting a little bit of regression from Russell Wilson. I wasn't really trusting what they were going to do offensively, but they've been pretty good. And then the Chargers are a legit Super Bowl contender.
Yeah, having basically reached the point where I think, did Mike actually jump off the bandwagon, or did he just stay quiet for long enough that he could reclaim it?
There was no
again?
need for him to. They lost to two good teams early, and that was it.
And yeah, but they'd also had injuries and stuff as well. What's interesting is that Seattle's offensive line doesn't suck anymore. And that's like a really big reason why they're better.
Coming into the year, I really thought that the scheme change would help a little bit.
Their run blocking is still pretty bad, but their pass blocking is average at worst. It's actually become pretty good.
I've got to grind my gears.
And hang on, I don't know if you know this or not, but the passing game is quite important in today's NFL, Steve.
It is. So what's their pass blocking? Better?
It's better. It's across the board. There's nobody with a very bad pass blocking grade. There's a couple of guys that are hovering below average. Everybody else is hovering above average, but league-wide, they are doing pretty well.
14th across
grade?
the league in the overall PFF grade.
Okay, yeah. So they are
pass blocking grade.
Right. So in pass blocking, they are grading significantly better. In terms of pass blocking efficiency, they are fourth. They've only given up 41 total pressure so far, which is the second lowest in the league. The only one ahead of that is the Saints, who have arguably the best pass blocking in the league, period.
And Wilson's time to throw is still a little bit longer than most.
So the Seahawks' pass blocking has gotten tremendously better than terrible.
Yeah.
And obviously that just has this, it has a transformative effect on what they can do, because we've been saying for years that Russell Wilson is a top quality quarterback, hamstrung by this bad offense. Now he's still under pressure a lot and invites a lot of that on himself, but generally he's in such a better situation when it comes to pass blocking than he has been.
He is, and I think that's bridged a big part of the gap with where I thought their talent efficiency was going to be. You know, keeping him a little bit more upright and making him more efficient has been huge.
So what's your grind my gears? We'll come to mine at the end, but what's yours?
Okay. Brian Baldinger.
Yeah.
I'm calling him out.
Oh.
Brian Baldinger was doing the Baldy breakdown the other day.
Breakdown.
And it was about, man, this Seattle offensive line, they're moving people. So every clip that he showed had absolutely nothing to do with the offensive line. In our grading terms, it was just a whole bunch of washes, you know, like zero graded plays. The Lions were jumping into their gaps. So the first play, for instance, Chris Carson gets to the line of scrimmage. There's literally nowhere to go. And then he bounces it outside where Jared Davis, the linebacker, completely vacated his gap, over-pursued. It was more of a defensive failure and a good cut by the running back. Every play after that was Chris Carson getting to the hole against a tackler at the line of scrimmage, where the difference between the play being a 0-yard gain, a 1-yard gain, and a 10 to 15-yard gain was completely Chris Carson. Now, the only way you would credit the offensive line is to say, okay, none of them got whooped. They just kind of made expected blocks. But the Lions, it wasn't like the Lions were getting blocked up. They were all in their proper gaps where they wanted to be. And then Chris Carson made people miss. And then there was one play that was really well blocked out of like 6 that he showed. That was really, really well blocked.
How did you make it through the video without getting seasick from all the wobbly camera action focusing on?
I don't know. I don't normally watch his videos. I mean, I respect.
This
Baldinger.
isn't my grind my gears, but let's call it a little bonus grind my gears or an addendum to yours. But if your thing on Twitter is going to be like video breakdowns, for the love of God, invest in a stand for your phone or like something that keeps it steady instead of you like your shaky hand in front of the screen wobbling this thing to the point where I can't make it 45 seconds into your video without wanting to go and hurl into a trash can feeling seasick.
And personally, if you're highlighting a play, I'd rather that you just show the play first so I can see what you're talking about.
Let it run.
Because there's so many times it's like, watch this play by this quarterback, and you have to wait a minute and a half before the play runs.
Yep.
And then it looks like a coach going start, stop.
Start, stop. Yeah.
Start, stop.
Never. You just let it run once. If you want to come back and talk about it, do that. But let it run.
But chances are I'm going to watch the play then bounce. But a lot of other people like the commentary, and I appreciate that, but watch the play first.
At least that way I get the choice, right?
A lot of gear grinding
I'm
today.
probably bouncing anyway if you're just shaking the camera in front of the screen and it never gets more than 3 seconds into the clip.
Yeah. So the point is, Chris Carson's running extremely well. The Seahawks offensive line is probably not playing as well from a run blocking standpoint as maybe rushing yards would lead you to believe, despite them running the ball 800 times last week. I'm really watching the pass game, of course. Again, Wilson only had to throw the ball 17 times last week. I expect, he's going to have to throw the ball a little bit more against this Chargers pass defense, and that's a pretty good matchup.
Yep.
How are the Seahawks overachieving? Can they keep it up? I'm taking the Chargers at Seattle.
Same.
But I think this is another potentially really good game.
Could be, yeah.
All right, we got 2 more games to get through. Let's fly. Houston Texans at the Denver Broncos. Who's Monday Night Football, by the way? Oh, that is Titans. Is that Titans Cowboys? Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Houston Texans. I'm just making sure we weren't missing any games. Texans at the Broncos. What are you watching for in this one, Sam?
I'm curious to see how that Texans offense kind of continues. I'm also curious to see what they do with Demaryius Thomas, their new acquisition wide receiver.
From the Broncos. I mean, how interesting is this?
Right.
You join the team right before you play.
I mean, it's this weird dynamic, right? Because Denver is posting all these like social posts of thank you, Demaryius. You'll be in the Ring of Honor one day and blah blah blah. But we think you're sufficiently crappy that we're not worried about trading you away and playing you the next week. Like we don't think there's enough of a risk of you actually doing any harm.
Broncos are looking ahead.
Yeah, I mean,
it's Cortland Sutton time.
You don't trade away a guy that you got to play next week if you're concerned about what he can do.
No, because this year doesn't matter for Denver. They're moving on. They know.
Whatever. Anyway, you've got Houston having acquired Demaryius Thomas, having lost Will Fuller. They're not a like-for-like skill set, obviously. Fuller is the speedster. Demaryius Thomas is a bigger wide receiver. But they do the same thing a lot of the time. So Will Fuller's very good at this, catching the screen pass and winning with quickness. I think the thing Demaryius Thomas does best of all is catch those bubble screens and make 10 yards because he's big and strong. You know, this thing Des Bryant always did pretty well is catch that quick smoke route,
right,
and just beat a guy or at least drag him for 7 yards.
He had some like 70, 80 yarders in there for Romo.
Right, but he would also get those, you know, if you're on the 12-yard line, he's one-on-one with a cornerback, but the guy had was 7 yards off, he would be able to fight 10 yards into the end zone just because he was stronger than the corner going up against him. So Demaryius Thomas is very good at that as well. So though it's not a like-for-like replacement, I think they do a lot of the same things, and it's interesting to see if they will just plug him right into that role and say, you do what he did. You'll do it in a slightly different way, but it'll have the same effect. And then the other thing is, now if you put, he's always had, with the exception of Peyton Manning, obviously, he's always had a kind of succession of fairly crappy quarterbacks throwing him the ball in Denver.
Right.
What happens when you put him with Mahomes? Does he suddenly get this boost? You start to see more consistency from Demaryius Thomas?
From Watson?
Sorry, yes, Watson. Or is he just this annoyingly frustrating, inconsistent guy who looks like he has more talent than he ever displays?
I think so. The comparison you made before the draft for Cortland Sutton, who's essentially going to be replacing Demaryius Thomas and his targets, was Demaryius Thomas, which I find really interesting. But one of the reasons why you did that is because Sutton wasn't coming down with certain passes in contested situations that you thought he should, but he'd make a spectacular catch here and there. He could run the go ball, and he was good after the catch. So there's a lot of the comparisons there.
And we've already seen that so far.
We have.
In Denver. You know, he's made some incredible plays, and then there have been plays where you think, probably should have had that one.
Yeah, I mean, Demaryius is overall a productive receiver, but there's some maddening aspects.
It's not even saying that he's bad. It's just like with the stuff some of the things you're able to do and some of the stuff you have on tape, why do you not do more?
Right.
That's really what it is. It's like you should be. There are probably two more physically gifted receivers in the NFL than Demaryius Thomas, right?
What?
Two.
More physically gifted?
Yes.
I don't know about that.
Who's
Julio and
Josh Gordon?
AJ Green?
More physically gifted than Demaryius Thomas? Thomas is bigger, faster, and probably has...
If you're just calling it those couple attributes, then maybe.
I mean, I'm not calling them just those couple, but that's where I'm starting.
Okay. I mean, top three's a little rich, but go ahead, carry on your point.
Well, it's a little rich, though I offer no alternative to your thesis. Anyway, there are probably only two receivers that are more physically gifted than Demaryius Thomas.
Definitely.
And yet, he's never been in that bracket of top elite wide receivers. You're always expecting more because of what he can do.
That's fair.
And I think Cortland Sutton is a lot the same. You've already seen him make some spectacular plays so far this season. And then there are other plays you're like, well, if you caught that one, I mean, you know, come on.
Yeah, right.
Like, this was easy by comparison. Why'd you not come up with that?
No, I think that's fair. I'm taking Houston in this one, Sam. You're taking Denver.
Yeah. The end.
Okay, cool. No reasons. Doesn't matter. Moving on. It's definitely the home field advantage. I know that's where you went. Monday Night Football, Tennessee Titans at the Dallas Cowboys. Let me start with what I'm watching, Sam.
Oh, God.
Future Hall of Famer Corey Davis going up against number one PFF corner Byron Jones. Matchup of the century.
Like, so he's got to get to how many? It was 1,000 catches you're putting him in for, right, over his career.
Does everybody know that?
Well, they do
joke
now
as well.
Steve thinks that Corey Davis is catching 1,000 passes over his NFL career.
I was asked to make a bold prediction before the 2017 draft.
Yeah.
Day of the draft.
Uh-huh.
That was my bold prediction.
And that was your bold prediction.
He has 30 this year.
Yeah.
Okay.
So on the if you plot a curve,
got to get him away from
like a
Mariota.
career arc of 1,000 receptions.
How old is he? He's 23.8.
How far behind the curve is he at the moment?
Okay, so he's got 73. He's got 73 receptions.
Okay.
He's on pace for about 60 total
this year.
So we had 30. So he's going to be at about 103
for 2
over
years.
2 years. So we need about 18 more good years out of him.
How many years did Jerry Rice play?
Like 20.
Right.
18 to 20.
So all he needs to do is to hang around as long as Jerry Rice.
Am I doing that math right? I said he would be top 5 all-time in receptions or top 10 all-time in receptions, catch 1,000, something like that. We don't need to do any more research. Look, he's behind the 8 ball a little bit. But he had a breakout game 4 weeks ago.
Dude, Jerry Rice only played 16 years. You're screwed.
Well, he's obviously going to increase his pace. at some point once Mariota figures it out.
Well, maybe quarterbacks are playing longer. Why can't he play 2 years longer than Jerry Rice?
See, it's a good point. He takes care of his body. He's only 23.8 years old, according to PFF premium stats here. He's going to be okay. He's going to be okay. Don't you worry.
Jerry
I'll
Rice
be watching that matchup.
only had, what, 4? That can't be right. He only had 4 seasons with more than 100 receptions?
Yeah, but
Well,
remember,
there you
like
go.
1995, that was like
Yeah, 95,
a massive thing.
That was 122.
Yeah, everybody did it in 95, but that was
Right.
like the first, that was like only 3 people had done it up until
Well, look,
that
here's the
point.
good news, right? Jerry Rice started off. He only had 49 as a rookie,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, year 2 it was 86, so that's a problem. But
Okay,
year
so-
3 and 4, 65 and 64.
Great. So we're on pace. Look, Corey Davis, he just needs 56 catches to for the rest of the year to match Jerry Rice's second season.
Yeah, and his final season, Jerry Rice, when he was like, 122 years old, he only had 30 catches.
So there you go.
So look, there's like 5 seasons where he can catch up on Jerry.
So I'm not worried.
No.
I'm not worried.
I mean, at that point, it's in the bag, right?
Yeah, we're going to get there. 1,000 catches for Corey Davis. You wait. Him and maybe someday it's Jameis Winston firing the passes in his MVP season to Corey Davis for 130 receptions one year.
You can't do that because it's not unless you ship him off that year, because otherwise he's going to drag him down the other 4 years either side of him.
That's true. It's just got to be in the right year where it matches.
Okay, so
You got anything on this game?
you're going with Corey Davis against Byron Jones, the #1 cornerback in football right now.
It's a good matchup.
I mean, is it? Not for your Hall of Fame credentials, it's not.
Dallas back 7 overall, still very intriguing
Yeah.
against a struggling Titans offense.
Yeah, and that's really the biggest thing, right? Is
Right.
what the hell has happened to Mariota? Why does he suck?
Yeah, there's a lot of quarterbacks, whether it's Trubisky in Chicago, whether it's the Goff move in Los Angeles, where you're just like, all right, when you get this quarterback who's shown some talent, who's shown that he has some talent, into a favorable system, boom, things just take off. Other quarterbacks have done it, and then they get the system quarterback label. Mariota has not done it in this new system that's supposed to be more favorable to him. He has not taken off this year like people were hoping.
It's kind of interesting. So Mike Renner said that Jameis Winston has neither developed nor gotten worse since his freshman season
Why are
at
we
Florida
back
State.
on Jameis Winston?
Because I'm about to connect him to the quarterback we're just talking about.
Sorry, go ahead.
So, Winston is acknowledged as this guy that hasn't really changed. He's the same guy that he's always been. Honestly, I think the same thing is probably true with Mariota. He hasn't gotten any better since he came out of Oregon. We looked at this guy who was, to some degree or other, a system quarterback at Oregon, right?
Yeah.
The big question with him was, well, okay, he's doing a lot of nice things, but holy crap, these wide receivers are wide the hell open all the time. Like, it's nice, but what happens when he goes to the NFL and guys are suddenly covered all the time and you actually have to go through more reads than one and, a bunch of other stuff. It's not that he can't do X, Y, and Z. It's that I don't know if he can do X, Y, and Z because the situation he's in at Oregon is so damn easy, it's hard to know. So he's come into the NFL and he's the same guy he was when he came in. So those two quarterbacks, albeit completely different styles and skill sets, are somehow both the same guy they were when they came into the league.
It is interesting, yeah, because people just assume linear development. His grades have gotten a little bit better. Statistics have gotten worse.
Yeah.
For Mariota. Another dynamic at play there. Has his whole supporting cast and everything just gotten so much worse over the last couple of years? I think there's an argument for that as well. Despite Hall of Famer.
I was going to say, even with Hall of Famer.
Well, he's
Corey
not a
Davis?
Hall of Famer yet. He started out slow, much like Jerry Rice. He's coming out of the MAC, right?
Yeah.
Jerry Rice was coming out from Mississippi Valley State.
Yeah.
And there's an adjustment period.
There is.
There's an adjustment period.
Yeah, and he doesn't have a Hall of Famer like Joe Montana throwing him the ball.
See, you're understanding. If you just plugged Corey Davis into the 1985 San Francisco 49ers West Coast offense, Corey Davis is Jerry Rice.
Okay.
Maybe I'm going a little too far.
a little bit too far.
Little too far. Do you have a winner in this thing?
Right off the rails.
I'm taking Dallas.
Everyone's taking Dallas.
We're all taking Dallas. Byron Jones wins against Hall of Famer Corey Davis.
No, I get cat.
All right, are we done?
No, I got my grind, my gears.
Oh, geez, you got more gear grinding.
More gear grinding. So, defensive pass interference, right? It's this penalty that a lot of people seem to think is a smart penalty. So you put up a play where a guy gets toasted and tackles the guy rather than lets the ball be caught, right?
Great play.
Happens all the time. And you see, and there's always a bunch of people that are like, oh, it's a smart play. He prevented a touchdown. Like, well, okay. It is a smart play in the same way that not like sending a second $10,000 check to the Nigerian prince in your email is a smart play, right? It's smarter than sending him the second check, but it's probably not as smart as identifying that as an obvious scam in the first place and putting it in your spam folder, right? Can we agree that, tackling the guy rather than giving up a touchdown is smart, but it's not as smart as just not getting hosed for the double move in the first place.
You're a metaphorical genius.
Thank you.
So don't send that first check.
No, don't send. No,
don't get beat in the first place.
A Nigerian prince in your email that assures you if you send him $10,000, he can get you $1 million back by helping him out. He's got a cash flow problem. Just needs a quick injection of cash, and then he can free up all of his $1 million. And you're gonna get it all for helping him out. I wouldn't send him that money. I don't think it's on the level, Steve. I think what that is a scam.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is
the first move is also a scam. Yes. Don't fall for it.
What I'm saying is, sure, if you're beaten and the only alternative is give up a touchdown, tackle the guy and give up the penalty, right? But that's probably less of a good thing than just not getting beaten in the first place. If you're in a position where the best thing you can do is give up a 50-yard defensive pass interference penalty, things have gone wrong. Mistakes were made. Is all I'm saying.
Great. Yeah, it's funny you said that because I definitely heard it like 2 or 3 times this weekend watching football. That's a great penalty right there.
Right.
And it does grind my gears. I just forgot.
And it's the same. It's not even just defensive pass interference, right? Holding. That was a great penalty. Saved his quarterback.
He got whooped the first time.
Yeah, he saved him because he was killing him in the first place.
My favorite's the throwaway or the check down. That's the best play this quarterback's made all game. He dropped one in 22 yards on a dude's hands. That was the best throw that he made. The throwaway, while maybe it was a smart move for that given play, was not the best play that he made all game.
Yeah, but again, tackling the defensive end so he can't murder your quarterback from behind is probably better than the alternative, right?
Yeah.
But it's not as good as just not getting beat in the first place so that it was never a problem.
I hear you, man.
That's where I'm going with that.
It's gear grinding.
So the people that say that, smart penalty, really smart. No, grinds my gears. Grinds my gears, Steve.
We got after it today with some stuff. I think it was a good pod.
Yeah?
I think we did well.
Even with all that, stalling in the middle and,
No, I think it was good. I think it all came together. I think it was endearing. I think our listeners are going to be like, these guys, they're maybe slightly unprepared, but, they're doing it so they could bring something to the table.
We also took a lot of time out to explain jokes. That tends not to be a great winning combination.
Whatever. Let us know.
No, don't let us know.
I want to know feedback. Let us know. I think we're done here. Week 9 preview is in the books. Don't forget, we'll be back on Monday with our Week 9 review. And if you guys want to have all the great information that we have at your fingertips, it's all at profootballfocus.com. Sign up for the PFF Elite Package that gets you Premium Stats 2.0 and Green Line for all of your picks needs. Special thanks to all of our sponsors. And again, we'll talk on Monday with our Week 9 review.